Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it here with us on NACTV. I'm Eoin Devereux, journalist with the Banner Press, welcoming you as almost always to the program. And I am joined this week by publisher, owner-operator of the Banner Press, Ken Waddell. Ken, good to have you here this week in the chair.
It's a nice day to be here.
That's right. We're getting into our festive fall colors, as it were. Everyone's getting into that sort of spirit of things right now. We just recently had our Thanksgiving celebrations, Canadian Thanksgiving. There is a lot to be thankful for, even though we all deal with a little bit of strife and hardship from time to time. In the grand scheme of things, most of us are doing pretty darn well on that. We need to remember that. We need to be thankful for that. As positive as Thanksgiving is, though, a festive time for family and friends, sometimes some people just got to go and ruin everything. And very unfortunately, that is the premise of our front page for this week's edition of the Banner Press. The Friday, October 18th edition. We have two unfortunate stories to share with you. We don't have all the specific details right now, but we ran with what we had in the moment. And the first one is arson in Minnedosa ruins Thanksgiving Day's display. If you check out the front page of our newspaper, you're going to see a much better version of this picture. It was shared to us from the Minnedosa Fire Department, as well as Minnedosa Tourism. They'd put up this beautiful little festive Thanksgiving sort of place in a gazebo, just where you could take selfies, families could come together and get family shots for Thanksgiving. It was a very beautiful setup. And once again, just looking on the screen here, I wish you could see a better version of this. One of these days we'll have to get that technology where we can do voiceover type things with pictures. You know, one of those days we're going to adapt that, right, Ken?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So
I'll get right on that.
Exactly. And that's why you got to pick up a copy of the Banner Press to be able to see it with your own eyes. Even though it's something you probably don't want to see. This is my opinion. It's not that of the Banner Press. It's not that of NACTV. It might not be your opinion, but maybe it should be. And most likely it is. And most likely it is yours as well, Ken. But this is ridiculous. This is disgraceful. This is just a complete an act of vandalism like this, an act of arson like this, is just selfish and shameful, in my opinion. And my opinion's right.
Yeah. Your opinions are almost always right on. Anyway, no, I looked at that and I thought, I just mentioned off air before we started, if you, most creative thing you can come up with in life is to burn somebody else's creativity, you get a pretty sick mind. I mean, I just don't get it. I never have understood vandalism. But if you don't like it, well, walk away. If you don't like it, don't go see it. Mm-hmm. But I think it's just, I really don't know what the mindset is. I guess at my age, I'm glad I wasn't there because I might have done something stupid to the people who did it, which might have been harmful to them and maybe harmful to me. but I just I don't know. It's craziness.
Well, again, it's one of those things of, and if you want to find out a little bit more about this, I would suggest, I don't normally do this, because for the most part, I think social media is a complete waste of time and effort. But this time, I'll make the exception. Go down to Minnedosa Tourism, check out their social media pages, and see some of the pictures that have been shared since this incident occurred. Because there were several families and individuals that went down there and took advantage of this festive Thanksgiving sort of feature that they were able to put together. Volunteers from the community of Minnedosa, along with Minnedosa Tourism, took a lot of time and a lot of effort to put something, to beautify something, to bring something of value to their community. And it's wonderful to see that so many people were able to take advantage of that and get pictures of it before this occurred on Thanksgiving Monday. According to the reports that we were able to track down, this is most likely occurred in the early hours of Thanksgiving Monday. Just individual took all these little decorations, or individuals, we don't know for sure yet, as well as some of the local nearby tables and all that, and just set them ablaze. So this is still a story that is unraveling and unveiling itself. We left the information actually in the cut line. If you have any suggestions, any information in regards to the cause and the individuals involved in this, we hope that you'll contact Crime Stoppers or the fire department or the local RCMP. Like stuff like this, as I get older, you know what? The cliche Ken is that when you get a little older, you turn into a Karen, and maybe the male version of it is a Ken. Who knows?
Okay. Yeah.
But
There you go.
but again, like these types of things, what are you getting from this? What do you take from this as an individual to destroy something of value and something of beauty?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's like I said earlier, and you're saying it's so senseless. Like there's no upside to it for anybody. There's no upside to it at all. I just don't understand it. But our next story is even worse. But truth be known, a guy can really torque on that one too. But
oh yes, and again down the side on our front page, we do have a bit of an update. We spoke in a lot of generalities in regard to this, but that's because we don't have all the information on this breaking story. In regards to several break-ins and thefts are being discussed within the municipality of Glenella Lansdowne, and even from what we've heard, even into the community of Plumas as well. We don't have confirmation though. We decided to run with this and discuss this because we felt it was important enough and pertinent enough that it had to be shared, but we were very specific, we don't know the details. We know we've heard rumors and hearsay. We've heard enough from different individuals, multiple individuals, that we could confirm this though. What we have in the paper, we can confirm has been something that's been going on. Individual or individuals, we don't know the number, have been going on to properties in rural areas, breaking into the barns, the garages and whatnot, several quads, side-by-sides, and allegedly as well a half-ton truck have been taken. And that is just, God,
I also heard that some of this stuff has been found. I don't know if it's been returned, and you never know in what kind of condition it will be, whether it's been wrecked, the transmission driven out of it or whatever.
Yep.
There was an additional, after we went to print, there was another incident, but this time was pretty close to Neepawa, and a group of individuals, I believe it was reported to me to be 4 individuals, and they pulled up with a half-ton truck and a trailer, cut through a fence, drove into a yard through the back way, pulled up by the shed, and were this is 1 o'clock in the morning, getting ready to load up whatever they could steal, and they were confronted by the owner, who proceeded to get into quite an argument with them. But they did leave, and I don't know the details of how they left, but I understand there was a gun involved. Whether it was ever fired or not, I didn't get that report. And different people have said in relation to these ones that are reported here too, that, and you've heard it so many times, somebody's going to get killed someday, and they don't seem to care.
Well, again, there was an incident, I forget whether it was 2023 or 2022, I believe in Saskatchewan.
Yes.
That is an example of that. An individual was killed, shot by a property owner. That turned into a heck of a thing. And there were very strong opinions on both sides of that. Some saying that, you know what, a life is not stuff. Someone taking stuff should not constitute the taking of a life. You can see the argument in that. On the other side as well is that there has to be value. I mean, you have to have, there has to be rules in place here, and you cannot, if enforcement doesn't occur, when does self-enforcement become the need?
Well, another incident that was told to me, it didn't happen in Neepawa, but happened to a Neepawa man. He was in a parkade in Winnipeg, and he came across a person smashing into a car, and he says, like a fool, he intervened, and the person confronted him. He says he's pretty sure he had a knife in his pocket, but he didn't pull it out, I guess. He managed to push the guy or punch him or something to get him to go away, and he ran away. And he phoned the police, and the police didn't even bother to come. He said, "Do you want me to stay here till you come?" No, we won't be coming. And I mean, this is a robbery, and possibly an armed robbery. And I talked to my son, who is more familiar with Winnipeg than I am, and he said you were hearing a lot about the shoplifting, blatant fill your shopping cart type shoplifting, and they defy the clerks, and the clerks are told to stand down when they wheel the shopping cart out. And I says, "What are they doing with all this stuff?" He says, "Selling it." I says, "Where?" He says, on Marketplace, on the internet. He says, "There's lots of people that don't buy stuff from the stores. They buy it from these thieves who are making a living, or at least making some money anyway." Mm-hmm. It's pretty easy to make money on selling stuff if you don't have any input costs.
That's right. Those are great margins, actually.
Yeah.
If you can get margins like that, you are really doing something right, or really something wrong.
I think they've cut down on the amount of shoplifting at the liquor marts, but I haven't been in a liquor mart in Winnipeg ever, probably, but I understand it's very regulated, and ID to come in and buy whatever you're buying, this sort of thing. People were carrying out bottles of liquor in bags.
Well, I can sort of help you with that, Ken, because I have a good friend of mine I've known for 32, 33 years now, who works for the Liquor Commission, the LC, whatever you want to call it, in Brandon. He's worked there for several years. He said that the new devices that they have set up have been extremely helpful in terms of curtailing the theft of liquor. There's a whole process you have to go through. You have to sort of go into this little chamber area. You're locked in there mostly at the entranceway. You got to show your ID before you can be buzzed in, as it were. That has been very effective in that. Also very effective that my friend is 6'4", 320 pounds. So they see him near the door. People are a little less inclined to sort of risk anything there. But he said there's been less incidents that have occurred. I don't even know. I'll be honest with you. It's been so long since I've been in the liquor mart here in Neepawa that I don't even know if we have anything like that set up there. God, now out of curiosity, when we finish work today, I'm going to go to the LC just for curiosity's sake, just to see if I got to get buzzed in or not.
They're getting a new roof today too.
Oh yes, yep. So hopefully I'll be able to report back next week whether I had to be buzzed in or not here in Neepawa. But I know in a lot of major metropolitans, such as throughout Winnipeg and Brandon, this is something that is already in place. It has already been set up. So that's the grim reality of this. Not to turn this into a sermon or anything like that, but it is a little bit shameful. Not even just from a Canadian perspective. You see a lot of issues in the United States as well of just grab and run type situations.
Totally.
Where's that line between taking the law into your own hands and standing up for your own business, as it were? And it's such a gray, blurry line as well.
Let's talk about my column. It's happier stuff.
All right. We're going to segue quite nicely and quite seamlessly into Ken Waddell's column this week on page 4, as always, on the Banner Press. You had a little bit to talk about in regards to a couple special events that you and yours had on the go.
Yeah, just before we get into that, somebody was asking me about columns the other day, and I says, I think I'm up to 1,750 columns I've written. And so that's 35 years at 50 per year, so that's about right. Mm-hmm. But anyway, on the 11th, which was the beginning of the Thanksgiving weekend, 11th of October, was our 55th anniversary, my wife and I. And I'm not bragging or complaining. We've been through quite a bit. Some will know that Christine has been battling cancer, and more so battling chemotherapy for the last, she's into her 10th month now. But when I was home with her today at lunchtime, she had made 4 loaves of bread, cooked up some meat for meatballs, making meatballs, and there was a couple other projects she had on the go. But she says, I'm pacing myself, she says. So She loves to work. She loves making stuff, and so it's good to have the old Chrissy back, as some of my friends would say. But it's also, we're very thankful for that. We're very thankful for our staff, not the least of which is the famous Eoin Devereux. We're thankful for all our people. We have about 20 staff, probably closer to 25 now, counting Verdun and the NAC TV studio, Rivers Banner, Neepawa Banner. And they all work very hard. We put the paper together, and it was interesting. I was in a regular Thursday delivery. And yesterday, I talk about that in the column here too, about those Thursday deliveries. Pull up to the main spot in Verdun where we have papers, and it's a place called the Flower Attic. Mm-hmm. And there's two big blue boxes out front where we put the papers. And a gentleman come up to see me, and he'd been in business in Verdun all his life. He's 90 years old now, and he never misses the newspaper. He also never misses a Verdun Oil Caps hockey game. But anyway, and he said, "Thank you so much for the paper." He says, "It's such a good thing to have the paper, and it's improving all the time." And so it's nice to get feedback like that. And that's the kind of thing that keeps me going. Everybody knows that I'm getting pretty old. And but I did my son was with me, but I've done the deliveries myself. It's about a 10-hour day on the road, and but the reception we're getting. Boy, I sure got a wrinkly shirt. Oh man, there, that looks better. Well, a little bit. Anyway, it's just nice to have that kind of reception from people, and to have somebody who's 90 and still very active in the community. It's an inspiration. So it was kind of a good day. We had a good anniversary. Didn't do a whole lot of things special. Actually, we cleaned out our garage for our anniversary, so we can get our cars in for the winter.
That's right. Winter is coming right now. So
yeah. No,
but again, the older I get as well, I find it's the little things, the little conveniences, and the little moments that you sort of start to cherish a little bit more.
Yeah.
That maybe you took for granted in your 20s and perhaps even into your 30s. Like this week's column talks a lot about that to a degree and shares a little bit of hindsight on these types of moments that maybe we still, as a collective, take for granted, and maybe we shouldn't. So hopefully you'll take a few minutes of your time and go through Ken's column. He's not railing against the government like he usually does.
Yeah. Well,
that'll be for next week's edition.
We also, are very happy to receive feedback, not only in person, but by email, by phone, or in person here at the office. And if you've got suggestions as to how you think we might improve the paper, we're open to suggestion. I had a call this morning from a Verdun paper reader, and they were complaining about something that I've complained about a lot of time, and that's the performance of Canada Post. Like, if you want to have the Neepawa Banner, Rivers Banner, or Verdun Empire Advance by mail in your mailbox, you can rest assured that it's going to take a week or more for it to get to you. Absolutely insanity. No reason for it. Just the Canada Post. I wrote about that 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was railing against the government sort of there that day. The Canada Post has become incompetent on it. It's just, my God, I hate to say that, because most of the people are working locally, work very, very hard, but the whole distribution system they got going, it's just horrendous. We've had papers take a week to get from Neepawa to Plymouth.
Having said that, that's the issue when it comes down to right now. Even though we didn't really write about this in this week's edition, we're going off on a little bit of a side quest right now in regard to this, but I think it's something important enough that maybe we need to take a minute or two on this, is that what is the priority of Canada Post? Quite honestly, it seems like the priority for Canada Post is delivering Amazon packages, or packages from Temu, or whatever little app there is for that. And I can't stand up on my high horse and rail against it, because I am just as guilty. There's many times I've ordered items from Amazon or Temu or something like that. Heck, this shirt is actually from Temu. It was like $8. It was made in. It's one of those throwaway shirts that this time next year it'll be completely deteriorated. But so I'm just as guilty about that. But I think maybe Canada Post, to a degree, is given that mandate of these are the priorities, because these are the ones that cut the biggest checks.
Well, I can confirm that because I have talked. I could name you the person, but I won't because I don't want to incriminate them.
Yep.
I can name the staff person who told me this. They said our mandate is parcels.
Yep.
Not first class mail, not second class mail, not third class mail, parcels. And obviously somebody comes to the wicket and they want their parcel, they want it as quickly as possible.
True.
But most of the post offices work pretty hard to make sure that all the mail that arrives on a particular day gets into the mailboxes or the parcel tickets or whatever on that same day. But the greater system is much more geared, like you say, to the parcels. And that's the mandate. That's the stated actual mandate of Canada Post now, is parcels.
But again, the other argument on that is what is bringing in the most dollars? What is bringing in the most bang for the buck? I am not the rule in terms of this. Maybe I'm the exception. And maybe you can share some of your information in regard to this. But when it comes to mail delivery, there's nothing anymore, for the most part, that I need delivered through Canada Post. Any messages I get from friends or family are either through text or through email or a phone or something like that. So all I receive for the most part, other than items from Instagram and whatnot, is a Christmas card from my brother's family every year. Usually a couple flyers from our local member of parliament, the CAA booklet every month, and I believe that's it. Other than that, I don't receive anything quote unquote of value other than those items through the post office. Like I said, I might be the exception as opposed to the rule on that. And as a business owner, Ken, I'd imagine you are the exception to my exception, as it were.
Well, we still get quite a few checks in the mail. Mm-hmm. We certainly get some bills in the mail, but not as many. A lot of them are emailed. A lot's direct deposited now, too, on the check side, on the income side. But just to give you an example of the Verdun office, which I actually do the deposit there, we probably do about 10 checks a week through the mail.
Right.
Which is an average of 2 a day. It's not the volume it used to be, that's
right.
for sure.
But it's still a volume that's notable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and we're glad to receive the checks through the mail. But I'd rather have check in the mail than some of the e-transfer stuff. But yeah. I'm a dinosaur to a certain extent, I guess.
Well, again, we've talked a little bit about something that's not even in this week's edition of the Banner and Press, but that's what this show is about sometimes. We go off on other little tangents or discussions. If you want to get the paper word for word, verbatim, that's why you always got to remember to pick up a copy of the Neepawa Banner and Press in 30 different locations throughout Western Manitoba. You can find it in many different communities. And if you're not able to find it, an actual physical representation of it, always remember, every Friday it goes live on our website at mywestman.ca. Once again, that's mywestman.ca. Just going to flip things around here since we only got a few minutes left here, Ken. I want to talk quickly about a really good weekend for the Neepawa Titans. Our Junior A hockey team had a pair of games last weekend against the, at the time, unbeaten, perfect Selkirk Steelers, the best team in the MJHL. And they also had a game at home here against the always difficult, always competitive Steinbach Pistons. This was the first real challenges for the Neepawa Titans in this early portion of the season. And I gotta say, Ken, with coming away with 2 victories in those games, they came through that challenge with flying colors.
It was exciting games. The Steinbach one was a bit of a nail biter because they were up, I think, 6-2 at one point and ended up being tied 6-6 at the end of the regulation, but they scored not too far into the overtime to get that winning goal and to get the 2 points. They played really good hockey. I was talking to one of the players this morning, and he says, we kind of bent a little, but we didn't break in that game, and I was maybe a bit of an understatement because the fans watching it were certainly on the edge of their seats anticipating the outcome, and fortunately the Neepawa fans got the outcome they were looking for.
That's right. If you want to find the story in regard to that weekend, you can find it on page 13 of this week's edition of the Banner Press. It was a very impressive win in Selkirk against the Steelers, and then a win in overtime against the Steinbach Pistons right here at home. Always remember to check your local listings as well. If you're not able to get out to the Neepawa Titans games and see them in person, always check here on NAC TV, because there is rebroadcasts of the regular season games and the playoff games. Hopefully more playoff games in the future for the Neepawa Titans. So always remember, check your local listings on that. This week they're going up a couple games back-to-backs at the Yellowhead Center against the Swan Valley Stampeders. Swan Valley hasn't had the best start to the season so far, but you can never overlook any adversary you're facing. So they've got to take this game just as serious as a game against Selkirk or a game against Steinbach, because on any given night, who knows? All right, with only a moment or two left to spare, we're going to quickly share some details, just a little bit of general information about this month's edition of the Farmer's Advocate. We had a special feature in there as well, with Manitoba Ag X set to go in Brandon this month. We do these special type features, want to focus on a few of the interesting things that go on with the Provincial Exhibition of Manitoba, who organizes events such as Manitoba Ag X. And of course, we also had our regular advocate. It was a full 4 pages in this month's edition with a lot of valuable information, and not just valuable for those that are agriculturally inclined. Hopefully it's something for a layman like me that's going to be able to get from there. So we always like to be able to get that information out there and share it with the widest swath of people. And actually this month is the first time we have shared it with the quote-unquote widest swath here, Ken, because we've expanded its reach, haven't we?
Yeah, we had extra pages this week, and we also expanded into the Verdun market, and we had some ads from the Verdun area, and so we were very appreciative of that. And Verdun is a great market, agriculturally speaking, and retail as well, so we're appreciative of all that. But yeah, and certainly we're planning for next year, for November plus next year, from February through November when we do our advocate. We're planning to be in all 3 papers to give people a look at what agriculture means to our area. So it's kind of cool.
That's right. Moving ahead, it will be in the Neepawa Banner Press, the Rivers Banner, and of course the Verdun Empire Advance from February, when hardly anything's going on really for the most part. We got to admit that first month we are just desperate for stories for the most part.
Send us your stories.
Yeah.
Send us your stories.
And November as well, I hate to say, sort of get a little desperate on that one as well. But there's some real valuable information on those first, on those other months there that we'd like to be able to share with you. So once again, it's going to be something that is going to be bigger and better in 2025. So there's so much more we could have talked about with you today, but we just don't have the time. 30 minutes isn't enough time. I'm not advocating for more time. No. Let's keep it a nice tight 30. But that's why you got to pick up a copy of the newspaper. As I said, in 30 different communities throughout Western Manitoba. You can find out more information, in fact, on the local soccer team at Provincials, Neepawa Tigers football team, several fundraising events going on for Neepawa Handyvan, as well as Polio Plus, a regular Looking Back feature, as well as Helen's Kitchen. So many different little bits and pieces that anyone can get a little bit of something from.
And about 6 months ago, when we put the papers all 3 together in a package, and they're in about 50 spots in Brandon. So people are picking up the paper there, and they can have all 3, the assumption being that people in Brandon would have some kind of connection with all 3 of those towns, and so it seems to be successful there. I had a call all the way from south of Souris this morning, people picking up the paper in Brandon when they're in Brandon for shopping and whatever. So.
All right, so we're a little over right now, but we're going to thank you as always for tuning into the show. We always appreciate it. We hope you'll tune in again next week on The Story Behind the Stories. Have a good day.